Even Google AI gets it. AI has this, and I want to read this definition. In Indigenous communities, aunties hold a significant role as central figures who often act as a second mother, providing crucial emotional, spiritual, and cultural support to younger generations. Mike, way to go, Google AI. You got it.
Hey everybody, it's Ronnie here at Daybreak Star Radio, the only station indigenizing the airwaves. And I'm very, very honored for our special guest for this interview today, Dr. Charlotte Coté, a renowned scholar and activist, and so much more. And Dr. Coté is also performing in the upcoming show, The Aunties, an incredible production coming to the Moore Theater here in Seattle on November 20th. And of course, she's here today to share with us some of her insights, stories, and wisdoms. Dr. Coté, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Uklama hlotis myoth, Tseshaht aksuma, Nuu-chah-nulth, Hisdak la Tsumaas, Hiat Seattle. And so I'm just sharing with you my traditional name, which is Hlotis Myoth. It comes from our whaling culture. It means carrying thunder. My community of Tseshaht. But I live here. I live here in Seattle. I've lived here since 2001 when I got a job at UW. And I have been there for the last 23 years, and I am a professor in the Department of American Indian Studies.
How did you get involved with the Aunties?
Well, I received an email. The email was from Andre Bouchard, who has produced these Aunties performances that have been going on, I think, for a couple of years throughout the United States. And the director, Kendra Potter. And then here we are coming together in this Aunties production that's taking place next Wednesday, which they hope to and are planning to create into what will become a documentary, I think, of all the different people who are involved after they've, I don't know how many more they plan on doing. But yeah, so I said, sure, it sounds great. I grew up with, I am an auntie, but I'm not going to talk about being an auntie. That's up to my nieces and nephews to tell that story. I'm going to share about the aunties who were significant in my life.
So maybe you could give us a preview of the stories or themes that you'll be sharing during your performance during the Aunties.
Beginning with the importance of family. I mean, I never knew until I left my community, which was to go to school. If I didn't go to school, I would never have left my community. I come from a very tight-knit family. I was born and raised in my Tseshaht community next door to my grandparents. Had a beautiful upbringing. And was and still am surrounded by family. My aunts and uncles were in many ways like my older brothers and sisters, especially my youngest aunt, who was 7 years younger than me. So I share stories of my aunties, all my aunties, but in particular my Auntie Mispan, who I write about. I actually opened my book, my most recent book, about berry picking, because berry picking is very important to us, especially wild blackberries. And I shared that tradition with all my family since I was a child, but in particular my Auntie Mispan. And all of them had a role in my life. And I was thinking about this, well, what does it mean? Why do we say Indigenous aunties? And I love that term, our aunties. I'm a deadly auntie. This is I belong to that deadly auntie society. What I found interesting, even Google AI gets it. AI has this, and I want to read this definition. In Indigenous communities, aunties hold a significant role as central figures who often act as a second mother, providing crucial emotional, spiritual, and cultural support to younger generations. Mike, way to go, Google AI. You got it. And so having aunts, and especially having aunts that I had, they helped shape me. They helped shape my identity. They helped me understand the importance of of what it means to be a strong Indigenous woman.
What does the Aunties mean to you personally, and how do you think it will reflect on the role of matriarchs in Indigenous communities? So, your academic and community work spans everything from Indigenous food sovereignty to ecological knowledge and film. How do you think these passions of yours are going to intersect with your storytelling when it comes to the Aunties?
I have always been a storyteller. I grew up in a storytelling tradition. My book is framed in stories because I think stories serve as theory of who we are. They're a wonderful way of passing on knowledge. They serve as methodology for understanding how we frame our identity, who we are. Um, and so I think this is just part of that, being part of this film production. It just is uh, really connects to who I am as a person, that I see myself in many ways as a storyteller.
What the feeling after the experience of seeing the Aunties? What do you think they'll walk out? What do you think they'll learn?
We've had a history of colonization and colonialism that has tried to weaken our identities. And a way of doing that was to break down family and community, especially through the policy of federal Indian boarding schools. So many people have focused, rightfully so, on what happened to the children in those schools. But what didn't happen as a result of being in those schools? What didn't happen was that knowledge transfer didn't take place, that family and community, the backbone of who we are as Indigenous peoples, was destabilized. And when children came out as older teens, some stayed in there till they were 20s, they didn't have a sense of how to parent or how to be part of community. So it was relearning familial structures again.
What motivates you to continue bridging the worlds of academia, community, and art?
A lot of what motivated me is that first I had a family that said, if there's something you want to do, you can do it. Have the passion and dedication and determination, you'll find a way. And it wasn't until I started teaching as a graduate student instructor that I thought, I need to do this because there's so few of us. I need to do this for our communities and to show people, to let students know, to let our young people know. And I see a lot of them that come through my classes, young Native students who come from their communities, first just feeling alienated, being separated from their community, from their families, and then living in a large city where they've never, experienced that before. It can be overwhelming, you know. And so to be able to be in a position where you can say, hey, look, that happened to me too. You hold your ancestors, in the palm of your hand. Everything you do goes back to who your ancestors were. And when you go forward and when you're gone, the people that come after you will also have you there in that position. So you are carrying on a very, very important lineage.
So what advice would you give to Indigenous youth who want to share their stories, whether through art, academia, or activism, and they want to make their voices heard?
The words I would provide is just keep going and to find friendships and relationships and familial connections that will help you and support you as you continue on your journey. I always say I feel like I'm in the canoe with my students. As a coastal Indigenous person, we're in that canoe and we're paddling along a journey together, and helping them get to that destination. And as they continue, we get out and watch them and wave to them, hold our hands up to them, and just wish them the best as they continue moving forward.
Be you. Don't follow the path of anybody else you see. Be you. That's all you gotta be, is just be Native American. Be from your tribe. Just don't look up to anything bad. Positively influence others. Don't follow the negatives. Just